Hello and welcome back to Sweet Simplicity Mom. My name is Sarah and I am a wife. I am a mama to 8 children ages 16 down to 3. We live on 5 acres in a little house in Western Maryland, and I have been talking in the last several videos about food storage, about my story, why I believe food storage or storing food is wise, how to decide what to buy, how much to buy, and where to buy it. And now I'm going to talk just a little bit about how to store all of those things once you get them home. So as I mentioned, we have a fairly small house. We have 1,300 square feet. We are a family of 10. So we don't have a lot of space to store things inside our home. But we are very blessed to have a huge garage. And so we can store things there, and we also have a root cellar, which I'll get to that in just a minute. So whenever you're shopping and planning what you're going to buy, you need to consider your space limitations, especially cold storage space limitations. So how many freezers and refrigerators do you have so that you can store things? If you buy, 100 packages of meat and all you have is like the little freezer above your refrigerator, you're going to either be canning or I don't even know. It would not be a good thing. So you have to think through the space you have available. For our cold storage in our kitchen, we have, a regular refrigerator with a freezer on the bottom. And then in our garage, we have a second refrigerator and we have 2 upright freezers. And so that is our cold storage. It seems like a lot. Sometimes it doesn't feel like enough. And then we have a garage pantry room. It is a new room. We're doing some garage renovations. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably already know that. But half of our garage we have been renovating. And so in the very back of the garage, there's like a little storage room where we keep out of season clothes and craft supplies and games and a closet and those kinds of things. And then there's a little room. It's not very big. That is our garage pantry, and it has shelving, and it has our refrigerator and freezers, and it is wonderful. It is absolutely wonderful. We've always stored food in the garage. We used to have like the gorilla shelves type things, but it was not very organized. It wasn't very efficient, and so this makes it so much nicer, and I feel so blessed to have it. But like I said, it is new. It is not something we've always had. Canned goods and dried goods, of course, that's a lot of what we have out there, can be stored really creatively. You can store things under beds in boxes. You can store, like, especially household things, toilet paper, paper towels, hygiene products, those kinds of things can all go under beds. We have a buffet in our dining room that sits up off the ground. It has, legs, and underneath the part where there's drawers, there's open space. And so I sewed a curtain, and we have totes full of random food in there. Like our snack bin, our snack tote is under there. We have used a hall closet to store food before. We do have a small pantry in our home in the kitchen that we use for like the things that we use every day. Or very often. So, but you can put them anywhere. We have had a freestanding cabinet tucked on a porch. We've had things in, underneath furniture in the living room. You can make it work. Especially if you're hiding things. Make the curtains. It'll work. Another example where we have a curtain is behind our bed. It's actually, here, let me see if I can turn you. That curtain right back there. It hides all of our food that is in buckets. So we can't really get in there very easily. We have a step ladder. We go over the headboard and you can climb down in, and it's floor to almost ceiling shelves with our buckets on them. If we didn't have that there, it would be wasted space, and so it works. And then, as I mentioned, we have a root cellar. I know that's not a common thing, especially today. Our house is actually a double wide that was built in 1974, and in 1976 my grandparents bought it in Baltimore and moved it to Western Maryland, and they did a lot of things to it, which is why it's still standing and still housing us now. The stonework here goes the whole way around the original house, and then of course this bedroom of ours is actually a porch addition, and directly underneath it my grandparents built a root cellar. So it has a dirt floor, concrete walls, and it stores home canned foods beautifully. It is a little bit damp, so it doesn't store them for years and years and years. Eventually the lids would rust, although we haven't experienced that because, like I said, when we're prepping or preparing, we are only doing it for short periods of time. Sometime within the next year, all of those things are going to be used, and the jars will be washed and refilled, and next year's food is going to be put into them. So there are so many different ways to store things. The other thing is not necessarily how in your house to store things, but what are you going to do with these huge bags of things? It's much cheaper usually to buy a 50-pound bag of something than it is to buy a 5-pound bag of something. But of course 50-pound bags are hard to store. First of all, if you buy grains and things like that, it is recommended that you freeze those items for at least 48 hours to kill any kind of bugs or anything in them. Some of us do not have the freezer space to be able to do that, and thankfully we have not had to deal with that. We probably will someday. But so just a heads up, it is recommended to do that. But whenever you're decanting all of those items, where do you want to put them? So one of the easiest things to do is to go begging for containers. You're not begging, but bakeries, especially like grocery store bakeries, they have the plastic food grade buckets available. The bakery at our grocery store in town used to charge, I think they charged $3 for a 5-gallon bucket, and then $2 or $1 for, they have 3-gallon and 2-gallon buckets as well. So whenever we started this, of course we were buying them. We needed a couple more this year and went and asked, and they are now giving them away. So how awesome. Food grade buckets are not the cheapest thing, especially if you are preparing food for a large number of people. So just go and ask. They're usually just kind of like hosed out, not super clean, but they are washable for sure, and the price is right. And then of course there's the option of going to restaurants or sub shops and asking for pickle jars. Or even if you consume a lot of those things, you can buy things in the big gallon jars. We have one in the garage right now that has banana pepper rings in it. And then you can wash them out. They need to be washed really, really well so that they don't smell anymore. And also anything that you wash, make sure it is dry, really dry. Don't change temperatures dramatically, nothing, because any bit of moisture introduced to your foods can cause problems. But they are safe from pests, they are inexpensive or free, and I think that the glass jars look really nice. If you don't have a lot of space to store things, you have the ability to leave them out as decor. They look homey, they're comforting, so they definitely don't look like clutter, in my opinion. Although our house is so small, I don't really want them sitting out for me. So, I think that's all I have to say about storing food. The only other thing would be to make sure that as you're storing things, you're thinking about pests. For us here in Western Maryland, we don't have a lot of problems with insects. We do have mice. And especially, in the garage where there's not people, there could be problems with mice. So we have found that plastic totes work for things that are in like boxes. We keep instant potatoes, pasta, Jello mix, pudding mix, macaroni and cheese, even ramen noodles, even though ramen noodles are like a mouse's crack. Like, they love them. But as long as the tote does not have any holes, I mean, any holes, like air holes that are, that big, yeah, a mouse can get in there. So you want them to be definitely free of any holes, free of any cracks, lids that snap on. But once we did that, we have not had any issues. And of course, then, things that are in cans or jars or bottles, we don't worry about putting into containers like that. And even inside the house, anything that would be like super tempting to a mouse, chocolate stays in the freezer here, because we have an older house and it is not 100%, airtight. So we try to keep things just as tightly sealed as we can, because whenever we spend money on food, we don't want to share it with mice. So in your area, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's temperature that you need to be concerned about. Here, that's not really an issue. Our garage never freezes and never gets exceptionally hot. It does get warm in the summer, but it's never been a problem. The root cellar stays fairly constant. I mean, it's not a cave, so it doesn't stay in exact same temperature, but it does stay usually between 40 and 70 degrees, which is fine for our home canned things. So anyway, I think that's all I'm going to say this evening, and I'm going to have to maybe write some more notes. I want to talk a little bit in the next video about buying seasonally, and then I also want to share with you what I've learned about rotating and using our food storage so that it doesn't just become this like asset that we can look at and be like, oh, the food storage. We want to be able to use it. It's definitely a functional pantry that we're trying to build. So, like I said before, if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them down below. And I thank you for joining me for this video. I hope that you will subscribe and stick around, and I will be talking to you soon. Bye!